brother?
Hey, how you doing, girl?
I'm pretty good. How about you? I'm getting excited. This is the top security clearance for the post office. Is
No.
that what this is?
Well, it's gonna
Oh,
lead
okay.
to that. It's gonna lead to that, because that's what we're talking about
I
is
know,
data
right?
elements, and they're the ones that regulate data elements. And we're gonna see something in here, if I remember correctly, about data elements and health records.
Oh shit, hip. It's funny because I told you about my friend Will, who's taken those guys to the Supreme Court. He's entering a case that most people don't realize that his Roe versus Wade is the only case that's been heard since they passed that, and it's based on the HIPAA law, right? Yeah.
Based on private information, private data elements. And the problem is that the contract isn't between the mother and the father, it's between the hospital and the state.
Yep. Here we go with these weird, crazy ass trusts again, right?
That notice is out, and I posted it early, so we should have some people coming on. I see a few. Greetings. Luna Light, thank you for joining us. Marvin, Aaron, Carrie, and of course, Lori there. There's our sister Malika. Greetings. Lori was so excited when she was the first one on, and she said, "We're going to talk about secret security clearance for the post office." And I had to tell her, not quite, but that's what it's going to lead to, because in this information, I find out that we're talking about certain data elements, and that's all in relation to health information. And hey, brother, I've been telling everybody it's all about the inland marine insurance, and now we have a good path. So, what I got, let me pull it up, and you'll see on my thing, I've got a bunch of things pulled up again. So we've got a lot of information to go over, but I'm going to make it real quick and give the link so everybody's got time to do their research and reading in their leisure. But this here, I found this, and this is just a basic business associate agreement. It's the writing up of the contract. And as we've discussed in our court documents, generally, we start out by expressing who the parties are and then definitions. So that's what they've done up here, is they said the PMB agreement addresses the parties' rights and obligations concerning the use and disclosure of patients' protected health information. The HIPAA rules, as defined below, requires ESI, which is Express Inc. or Express Scripts Inc. up here, and plan to enter into a business. So the plan is this agreement with whoever they're agreeing with. So it's a healthcare agreement, whereby ESI provides certain pharmacy benefit management services to the sponsor's prescription drug plan. Sponsor and sponsors prescription drug plan, collectively referred to hereinafter as plan. So we know ESI is Express Scripts Inc., and we know they're abiding HIPAA rules, and we know who the sponsor is, guys, don't we? We should always know who the sponsor is. The sponsor is the one funding the competition or the contest, which is a competitive contract agreement. And then so we see, just like all court documents, they start out with definitions. And in this particular one, I paid attention because they're talking about breach, designated record set. They talk down here, transaction and code sets. And we know it's a set of United States codes. And we know they're all talking about all kinds of electronic public health information, meaning electronic protected health information, individual, A person shall include a person who qualifies as a personal representative in accordance with 164.502 of 45 CFR. Privacy rule shall mean the standards for privacy of individually identifiable health information, protected health information required by law, 45 CFR 164.103. Secretary shall mean the Secretary of Department of Health and Human Services. And we have a contract with the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services when we file that SS5. That is a contract. But what we do is we don't fill it out right as supposed beneficiary. And so the way it ends up is the presentment is made as a trustee, and that is the presumption from that point on. So I urge people, do not fill that out. You're not required to. You have to owe a debt to the United States in order to be eligible to fill one of those out to begin with. That is a security incident. You're claiming that there was a security incident and now you owe a debt to the United States somehow. Security standards will tell you this. Transaction standards is what tells us that we are the ones submitting the information that give the presumption of the record. Again, it will tell us this. We are the ones that are giving the private information that we shouldn't because we're not eligible. We don't owe a debt to the United States. You have
But I want the stuff. I want the stuff. This is the easy way.
You have to have taken an oath of office proclaiming that you are performing the functions of public office to then owe a debt of public dues.
Right.
Unsecured PHI shall have the same meaning as the term unsecured protected health information. So they're just showing that the abbreviation stands for the scripted term. Okay. Capitalized terms used but not otherwise defined in this business associate agreement shall have the same meaning as those terms in HIPAA rules.
And so last night we found this business, SBA, the SBA Small Business Association is run by the military something.
Yep, we're going to find the same stuff
Last
here.
night.
Use or disclosure, minimum necessary, specific use or does that sound like a specific delegation of authority, like a specific assignment? And that's what we're talking about. These are how they hide the assignments. But then another problem is, like I said, we're not involved in these contracts, so we're not actually assigned. It's actually just appointments or assumptions, presumptions based on these terms and conditions that, again, we don't know. They don't apply to us technically. Though we've made mistakes and they are being applied, they're not supposed to be. That's our mistake. We're supposed to repent for that and forgive them for their mistakes. Reporting, ESI agrees to promptly notify the plan. That's the sponsor, the United States, the indispensable party that nobody wants to name. Nobody can sponsor anything without the sponsor. The sponsor that funds everything is the IMF through the United States or through France, whatever country you're dealing with their fiat currency and commercial paper.
They don't want you to know that because your
Right.
failure to cede is the only defense.
Exactly. And then they talk about safeguards and mitigation and subcontractors and agents. Now, this is where presumptions come in, where you sign that SS5 as an agent. That's what you're doing. So now you're considered a subcontractor or agent. You have to rectify that. You have to redeem yourself by repentance. Say, I made a mistake. You have to admit your mistake in it. Amendments, accounting, restriction on use or disclosure, audit and inspection, privacy of and remember, if they're using this kind of stuff against us, and it's including our private identifiable health information, then we are capable of asserting the same things. Audits and inspections. Just because they're saying, oh, no, you can't. Bullshit. Anybody who finds something wrong with the record can request an audit and inspection. We have to do it through the right department, though. And a lot of people are failing to realize something I showed somebody today in a discussion is we have to start an administrative notice. The administrative notice in this case is going to start with the Civilian Board of Contract Appeals because the administrative action has already been taken place, proving that somebody's taken upon some contractual assignment to make an immediate estoppel against some private information. The guy holding the private
we also
information-
found the board. We found the board for the OMB.
Cool.
Yeah.
See, that's
the-
what we're dealing with is the boards. Remember,
the
walk
board.
the plank. And every lien lasts on the vessel unto the last plank. This is trust law. Then they have plan obligations. Again, it's United States obligations. The plan is a sponsor. The sponsor can only be the United States. They have to have authority from the United States to conduct any commercially within the territorial jurisdiction. Transaction standards. The HIPAA rules provide for certain transaction standards for transfer of data between trading partners. Material breach of business associate agreement termination. Indemnification. They have a hold harmless indemnification for the trading parties. They have that. They have to be able to extend it upon yourself, and yourself has to be able to recognize this and in equal exchange give them hold harmless in indemnification, because you're not saying they're wrong, you're saying the record is wrong. We've both been making mistakes. We just need to correct the record, and we need to do it together peacefully. Interpretation. Any ambiguity in this business associate agreement shall be resolved in favor of a meaning that permits both parties to comply with the HIPAA rules. So all of those meanings above mean nothing if they don't provide favor, permits both parties to comply with the rules. Now, if they're causing detriment against the known intended beneficiary, then they are not following HIPAA rules. Period.
And what law are they breaking?
Privacy laws.
Fucking right.
It's
the Privacy Act begins at 5 USC 552A with definitions that include the definition of individual.
Yeah.
That's where they have the Privacy Act, the first Privacy Act, and then this one is Health Insurance Privacy Act or whatever.
right.
So HIPAA is based on just the Privacy Act. So, and that's Title 5 USC 552A.
And this is also very relative to the first point of the Nuremberg Code. The consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. The voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. If you don't want to give that privacy information, you don't have any reason that you can be forced to. Period. They want your name. I'm sorry, that's private health information. And I can guarantee you, if that's a public employee in a public trust position, that proves again by them trying to enforce it in a trustee position against a beneficiary that they are not only violating the contract, but they are in breach of trust. The beneficiary is not required to do anything, give private health information, including the name. You can give a number. It even tells us in 19 CFR 149.3, anybody is allowed to give a number in lieu of a name and address. Why are you requiring me to give a name?
9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Exactly. So there's that link. And then the next link, this is where we go to get a military record, request for a military record. And this is one of those things because we want to prove that we're not military personnel. If you never request a military record, get them to say you've never been in the military. Great. I'm disqualified.
Well,
for
the
that.
conflation.
Now ask for your oath
the-
on the record as a political a performer of political functions. Nope, no such record.
the conflation is that people confuse that they are enforcing law, which would of course make everyone subject to it. It's like, thou shalt not kill, etc. If we're doing that stuff, you can't be like, well, I'm not an agent, but they're not charging us under law, they're charging us under code. And that's what we have to draw the mental difference in our mind, because a lot of us still haven't done that. And so we protest things that are inconsequential. It's like, well, even when you want to say Fourth Amendment and all that, that's assuming that they're trying to apply law. But as soon as they start saying you're charged under code, whatever, we have to know that, okay, so you think I'm in the military. We have to know that immediately instead of thinking that it's still something enforcing some actual law.
Right. And this right here is going to talk a little bit about that, because we're talking about national defense. And it goes down here, it mentions forms SF 312, SF 189, and SF 189A. Now, these two forms don't necessarily pop up, but the SF 312 does. And that is, oops. Classified Information Non-Disclosure Agreement. It's 2 pages long, and it says an agreement between blank and the United States.
I was reading this last night. I'm like,
Yeah, get this. Special confidence. Special in terms of equity, special literally stands for private.
Oh, like that
Confidence.
special maritime jurisdiction?
And trust. Yes. And all of a sudden they insert trust. So
Shall
we
be
already
placed in
know we're
me.
speaking of trust law. Shall be placed in me by the United States government. So everyone that has an agreement with the United States, it is a trust agreement, period. They have to be able to have access to classified information by handling government paperwork.
Well, technically, that's every fiduciary relationship, because even if let's say you're an employee at a restaurant and you're cooking proprietary recipes, they are entrusting you with that information. So any fiduciary relationship is going to be a trust.
Yep. But that trust in this commercial realm is supposed to be with the government. And that's why when you go fill out that employment application, you're involved in the trust because the employer is. Just like she said, that guy down here at the restaurant, he's got to have one of these too because proprietary information. But the proprietary information isn't necessarily just the recipes. It's the money, baby. So then this goes on and talks about all kinds of things. But once we get down here to the bottom, I wanted to make note only the National Security Council may grant, again, proving that it is a trust, an agency's request for a waiver from the use of SF 312.
Okay, so is that saying
So you either have to
Everyone-
have an SF 312, an SF
everyone
189, or an SF 189A, or if you don't have one, you can file for a waiver if you need to get to that information because you don't have one of these. So say you don't have one for somebody that's not a patient of your hospital and he comes in through the emergency, you can file for an emergency waiver from National Security Council to grant you information to his medical records through another doctor, simply because you know his name or something. You still have to have some kind of identification to get to that information.
Wow.
The next one is a fuller version of the last page here. Let me put that in the chat section. That way you guys have all these links too. And then this one. And like I said, this is just a fuller version of the last code in text document. and it's actually 2001.8, and it's not actually a fuller text. It's got a lot of the same information talking about that SF 312 and the waivers, classified information non-disclosure agreement, and the SF 714, and they also talk about an SF 715. And again, these are all just disclosure information disclosure forms that they shouldn't have the information to begin with. You're not supposed to be giving them
That's
this
what I was
data.
thinking. It's like they're taking
collect.
power of attorney. They're taking power of attorney by
Yes.
saying, oh, I'm just going to use this form to gather your information regardless of whether you gave me permission or not.
Right. And we've got to get used to, again, like Malika said, we got to realize we're not part of that association. We've got to start asking them, hey, can I give a number in lieu of the name and address then? Because as I recall, the number is the obligor. And I got documentation from a district court proving it. I'm sure the United States District Court will agree. We're not supposed to be giving this information out, I assure you. And it goes on to explain about the different forms, SF 700, security container information, the 701, and goes on and
There's a
tells you
hand
what
up,
these,
Keith. I'm not sure if you're taking questions, but there's a hand up.
okay, let me get to it. The SF 715 is the government declassification review tab. And that's what we're looking for. We want to declassify. When you give them information, they put you in a class. They classify you. We're superior. You can't classify us, bitches. Declassify that shit now. And that's all we're doing. And we deal with the Information Security Oversight Office, because what they're doing is they're using that as a basis of public information. And sorry, if you're using your public office and requesting private information, it has to be concerning your private employees. I'm not one of your employees. I am one of the known intended beneficial entitlement holders. Period. The next one, questionnaire for national security positions. See,
There we go. Title 5 CFR. Those
right,
employees.
5 CFR parts 731, 732, and 736. You know, that driver's license, it says state of Iowa right on top of it. Beneficiary is the second name on it, and that's the all caps name. It's not you, it's their person. They're the beneficiary. However, you are the beneficiary entitlement holder. So even if you have a driver's license, you can still clarify this stuff. But if you do have a driver's license and you know you haven't taken an oath, you cannot use that and then say later on, well, I get this. You have knowledge that the driver's license is not valid, the certification is false, you should be getting rid of that. Otherwise, you are not operating in equity. Once you have knowledge, you're supposed to act upon that knowledge, people. I've given you the knowledge. Certification is false. If you don't believe me, I dare anybody to come forth and prove that anybody has written a handwritten certification of their intent to perform the functions of public office.
Even if
At
they
least
didn't
50%
handwrite
of
it.
its use.
Even if they
Knowingly,
didn't
get
handwrite
that
it.
registration.
No one's ever typed it up either, even if they didn't handwrite it. It just does the certificate just does not exist.
By
Period.
reason and logic. Putting it in their code. Lessee must not know certification is false. Tells
Right.
you already the certification, they know it's false, and they're still operating on the legal presumption. Oh, that's the non-disclosure. Okay, now that first one that mentioned all the Title 45 stuff. Okay, here we go. Title 45 is public welfare. Now, every public trustee operates in the welfare program under what's known as the community care doctrine. This is the thing that says that a doctor that's on the clock at the hospital using his license as a public trustee has to perform contractual. However, with good reason, good conscience, and in good faith, while he's out about in the public community, because he is one of the talented ones that's supposed to go forth with those talents, if an incident occurs where he is able to assist in saving a life, that is his higher duty, regardless of his license. That is what the public welfare is about. And the first definition they say is breach, and it means acquisition. Did they just induce you into an acquisition by giving them data elements that were private?
Yes.
Most certainly.
Damn. Is that, well, I guess they're acquisitioning, so it's their breach.
Yeah.
Not our breach.
Right.
They're
But we
breaching
are
us. They're
involved
breaching
in
our
it.
privacy. They're breaching our privacy.
Right.
And
They
we are
have to
giving it
breach
to them.
privacy in order to acquisition something.
We are giving it to them because we think that that's the only way that we'll be able to get whatever the service we're applying for.
Yep. The next one, they like definitions. Correctional institution, data aggregation with respect to protected health information created or received. If they don't receive it, if you don't give it to them, they can't create it. If mom didn't give them the baby's name to begin with, I don't know what the name is. If mom gave upon registration House of Judah in the surname of Israel by the first name Lori, who do you think they're going to put down as the last name? They themselves will be confused. They themselves will be under the
to
spell
put the
of,
last name of the mother. They'll put mine was all my kids were Duke baby.
yeah. Well, what if she refuses to give a last name? Again,
Right.
Scripture
It'll
says
be
we're not
baby,
supposed
baby,
to.
baby, baby,
Yeah,
baby.
we're not supposed to cherish the earthly father's name, are we? Yeah. So if she gives her maiden name, is she giving her father's name or her heavenly father's name? So again, if you give them the house of Jacob and the surname of Israel, they're going to be confused as to which name to put down as the last name because they don't know what the last name is in regards to a surname. They're idiots.
I think they're trying to call people business associates.
Yes. Designated record set.
And that's what the small business association is related to that we found last night. My daughter can't remember what she was reading when we came across it, but we were like, what? What?
Yep.
Individual people are businesses according to the SBA Act.
Means the person
Right.
who is subject to protected health information.
Oh.
Look on, I've looked on hospital statement and it said that it said the patient was one and the person was the obligor was another.
Of course, because
The patient was the upper lower case. Yeah, the patient was
drag around dead.
Well, they do the same thing as the courts. The patient was the upper lower case name, and the obligor was the all upper caps.
It's like that on the leases too that we went over the other day.
Yeah.
They put the regular written name and then they put the all caps name as a different position.
There's the first one. There's the second one. And then the third one again is another set of definitions. And I know Malik is loving this because we love definitions, don't we, girl?
Definitions are life. What do you mean? Like, oh, I was driving in the state. I just love it.
And look what they admit to here. Act means Social Security Act, administrative implications. Social Security is pure administration, people. That's it. That's why they need that Social Security number in the administrative courts. That's why they need the Social Security number to administrate your health record down at the local doctor when you call in for for an
I
appointment.
always thought that was strange that they would put people's social on just the regular court forms. It's like, wow, why the hell do you need my social for? If this is law, if it's law,
But it's
why
look,
do you need?
look at
Yeah,
the
it's
next part.
administrative, right?
Yeah, see?
Yeah, of course. But we're not
Business
thinking that. We're thinking,
associate.
oh, they told me I broke the law. So you're not thinking, the code number 45, blah, 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 which means I have to work for the government. No one's thinking that. Everybody's thinking they're just a regular criminal.
Yep. Business associate. This is the business associate in that business associate agreement. A health
Yeah, and
information
so this is
organization.
connected to the Small Business Association.
Yep.
That's what we found, even though it was, I don't remember what title it was, but they're talking about the Small Business Association. And when you're talking about this, it's like, that is what it is.
Yep.
They
And look at
put
this.
those business associates that are are acting as trustee.
Yep. And we were talking about part 45 CFR part 160, 162, and 164. Here's general administrative requirements. Then we have administrative requirements. And in this one, we look at the general provisions and Medicaid pharmacy subrogation.
I like that the authority is 42 USC. Ha ha ha, right on the bottom.
And in this one, general provisions and imposition of civil money penalties. Why is it imposition of civil money penalties? Because every time they charge us, it's an imposition because we're not supposed to be using that. And the next one, security and privacy. This one here, we look at general provisions and privacy of individually identifiable health information. Except as otherwise provided herein, the standard requirements and implementation. Does that mean it's a contract? Yes, it's a contract under the federal acquisitions regulations, and simply by trying to acquisition, they breach privacy. Implementation specification means specific requirements or instructions for implementing a standard. Does that sound like specific powers of attorney have been made? When you give them the data elements without realizing what you're doing, this is what you're doing. Quit it. And I'm giving you guys all these links and going through this quick so we can all research it. I've already looked through it. And I'm going to keep looking through it. Like I said, it's a lot of information.
Yeah, I'm going to start with that part 160. And I'm already seeing that they're reserving 163. It's reserved.
And you see, guys, it doesn't take a whole lot of digging to get into this stuff and realize what's going on. Uses and disclosures of protected health information. There's one of my favorite damn rules or words, general.
General.
Uses and disclosures of protected health information, general, military. Again, you was born in a military hospital. I'm telling you, people.
It's a war zone.
The what?
A war zone, she says, I think, right?
Yep. And it goes
Yeah, it
through
really
and
is.
tells you just like that contract here about the prohibited uses and all that. Tells you the same thing right here.
Mm-hmm.
They're just doing the same thing Malik is trying to teach everybody to just copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. A lot of it's going to be copy paste. This is where they're getting it from. It's important to know what they're using against you. Another one with definitions, and it says, as used in this subpart, the following terms have the following meanings. Access means the ability or the means necessary to read, write, modify, or communicate data information or otherwise use any system resource. Is this the internet system? Is this the World Wide Web system?
Or their intranet where they won't let us apply for those government-wide purchase cards.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna learn how to create one of our own. Notification by a business associate. What about a notification by a intended beneficiary? This is what we're talking about. This is how you give them notice. This is where you would use the notice area. I believe I am a covered entity with the Social Security number, and I have to notify you of breach. People are using private information that I no longer consent to give. It must be removed immediately. It must be declassified.
Wow.
And then we have access of individuals to protected health information. That's those forms we were reading earlier. Questions for national security positions. Classified information, they have to have these. Access of individuals to protected health information. What I want to make clear here is that they may have authority to access the information, but again, they do not have the authority to demand it from you. They cannot say, well, I have to have the information. No, you don't. I am no longer qualified to give it out. In fact, I gave a written statement to the U.S. Department of Defense that it would no longer breach security, private security measures at all for fear of violating their espionage laws. Therefore, anybody that would request it would also be under the same suspicion. Could you possibly be violating the espionage laws by passing national security information that is private? That information is connected to bonds and securities that the United States runs on that internet, that system resource.
So Keith, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So, I was thinking a lot about this as I got records. It's like, maybe they just think because they really have most of us listed as Puerto Ricans running drugs and stuff, that maybe what they're doing, since they put people in the position of a trustee, that what they're doing is saying that because it's not actually our data. Now, mind you, I don't agree with any of this, but I think they've twisted it to be like, oh, it's not really your data. You're just the trustee for that data. So they're trying to flip it around and say that I'm sharing.
Exactly.
Yeah, these guys are geniusly creative and twisted.
Yeah. And real quick here, I'm just going to pop the rest of these links in here. But the one I just popped in last is an amendment of protected health information. That's where we're going to declassify it. Let them know. We want a redress number, right? Accounting of disclosure of protected. So we're going to get a forensic audit so we can have an accounting.
I wonder how many digits long that redress number I have is.
I think I saw it. I think it was 9 digits.
It might be 9 or 8. It don't matter.
Remember, I was talking about the right to request privacy protected information and stuff. If you're the beneficiary that's been giving the information, you get to get it back. In all cases, and in so doing, again, like I said, you get to pull out that forensic audit on them. I'm going to try to skip this last two in here before the clock cuts out on me. But great information. And Lord Messiah, I will get with you after we're done here and we'll have our own little discussion if you want. And then the last one is standard for enrollment and disenrollment. And when we look at this one, Malika, we talk about benefit, enrollment, and maintenance. When you enroll for benefits, you're enrolling for benefits and maintenance, folks.
As a main tenant or a lieutenant. a lieutenant for